Hey, you. Yes, you. Looking through the screen. You're watching film, and that's cool. Let me ask you this. Do you watch your own movement? Come over this way. Here is an iPad. Here is an NHLer doing a drill. And here is me doing the same drill that NHLer just did. In real time, I can compare my movement with someone better than me. But the cool thing is, video doesn't just work for hockey or for any other technical sport. Right now, I'm going to be doing tibialis raises against a wall. Now let's check the video to see how my form was. Oops, guess I did the form wrong when I thought I was doing it correctly. No sweat, no problem. Just set the camera back up, keep it rolling, and do it again, this time with the correct form. This is the magic of video feedback. It's a hack for your true potential. You get to compare your movement with the movement you're intending to get. And you can't argue against video because video never lies. When you combine video with knowing what to look for within the video, this is how you get the quickest transformations. So, haven't done one of these in a while. A few life things got in the way, but definitely this topic about video is one that I definitely have a few things to say. Why don't I start from the beginning? It pretty much all stemmed from Train 2.0 and the community that's been built there, where they would literally, ask people to film their video and send it into the Facebook group, just because that was the way that the program worked, pretty much. So the founder, Jason, only lives where he lives. He doesn't live where everyone else lives, who is signed up for the program online. So basically the only way that you get the coaching to him is to send in your video, and basically that's what I did, and that's what got me into it. And before I joined that, I never looked at myself. I never looked at myself in my own film, and I always took the coach's word for how I was performing. And I now know that that's not enough, because it does make a difference to see yourself performing a drill. So, common insider joke from the HG coaches community is that there was a guy who was doing tib raises the exact wrong way. He was lifting his heels instead of lifting his toes. And he was doing that for 8 weeks straight, apparently, without ever sending in video. By the 8th week, he finally sent in video, and there you go. He was, doing it wrong. And then the coaches finally got their word to say, like, oh, yeah, you're doing the form wrong. And I don't know what that exchange was like. I'm not one of the staff with Ben, but I do know what that's like when you have a client who you prescribe stuff to, who you only have access to online, and then they send in the video to you, and what they thought they were doing was correct actually turned out not to be what you were coaching them. And when that doesn't line up, that's where miscommunications happen, and people tend to. I think this is the other thing too, is people tend to make a bigger deal out of something as small as that than they really need to. Where it's just it's really just a simple adjustment. It doesn't need to change that much. Go back to the tib raise, for example. The only adjustment you need to make was from lifting your heels to lifting your toes. Like, that's pretty much it. Now you take that to something a little more complex, which is hockey. And this is something that I'm still figuring out a little bit myself, where how do you coach the most amount of people possible on something that's really complex. And I think the easiest way is to give them like one or two takeaways so that they can absorb and then act upon immediately. And a lot of us coaches get caught up in that, and giving a longer explanation than needs to. And I find myself getting caught in this too with the clients that I train. But back to the hockey example, if I tell them to just get wide in their stance and soften their knees, let the knees go over toe, and soften the ankles, let the ankles collapse onto the inside and the outside edge. That's all I need to say, potentially, for them to go perform the mechanics I want to see from them. And that was what happened. I told a group of kids to feel a difference or notice the difference between just bending your knees, like keeping your knees behind your toes, and then doing the opposite, keeping your knees in front of your toes. I didn't say anything more than just those two things, and they got it. Like right away. They were all literally like moving forward. As soon as they did this, they moved forward. There was nothing else that I said besides just get your knees over your toes. And they move forward. Like, that's all you need. And I think the challenge with online is that you don't get to say that. Mostly, like, I'll take ATG as an example. They give about a 24-hour window where they'll respond to people and give feedback, which obviously not the same as being in person here, where you're doing an exercise incorrectly. Push through the big toe. Oh, okay, I'll do that now. And adjust like that. And I've seen it where it's like that. This can tie into it too, where there's a problem with people not understanding what they're really feeling too. And some people pretty good at it. Some people not so much. I'm starting to see both sides. I used to be in the sentiment of the camp that, that you really have to concentrate on field-based learning because that is how the body learns. It's not that I don't believe that the body doesn't learn that way anymore, because I do think it does, and that's played a big role into how I learned movement, how I learned my movement with hockey, how I learned to move like the best NHLers, which was both a matter of learning mechanics and freeing up my body from not being in pain anymore. I was going down that path for about 3 years or so, where it was just feel this out, feel this out, feel this out, feel out this pattern, try out this pattern, see what happens, see what happens, see what happens, see what happens. And I did that a little bit. I got better. The only problem was I ended up discarding or discounting the importance of taking care of your body, and that's its own story in and of itself. But the point is, I went down that path. Video helped out a lot with that. What I'm realizing now is that I was actually still looking at my movement and then comparing it with what I was feeling. So in a sense, I was coaching myself. This is what coaching yourself really looks like, is if you combine what you're feeling, what you think you're doing, with what you're actually doing, which is what video and other coaches' eyes provide, that is where you get the most breakthroughs. That is where you get the most transformations. And I realize now that that's exactly what I was doing every time I would take that iPad out into the ice, and even what I do in the gym sometimes. Like, it's not just limited to hockey and my experience there. Is like I would still find flaws with my form, even on certain exercises with myself. Even if I couldn't see the flaws with my form at first, I would still send in form to the other coaches and wait a little bit, and they would give their feedback, and I would be able to see it. So it's like, okay, quick adjustment, just like that. That's it. That's all you need. So that's what it's like to cue movement and not anatomy. And I think there's a big challenge with doing that with floods and floods of online coaching, and there's a problem with compliance that I think doesn't go away. But either way, that's what video has done for me, is the ability to coach myself, and that is really hard to learn. That is super hard to learn. And maybe like pretty much anyone who's obsessed with movement or anything like that, which I would say I'm turning more into a movement geek, not just a hockey geek, but a movement geek. And that well, that's something that should be a little bit cleared up. Um, it's like if I'm a movement geek, then well, I guess I'm teaching you movement inside of hockey, which there is a gap in movement in hockey, but I think the quickest pathway to learn movement is through not just kinesthetic feel, but also being able to look at yourself. If you, again, you can't have one without the other. Like they both have to work together. So, basic message from this video is try out filming yourself with a complex movement and to see what it's like. It's nothing about being self-conscious or even self-critical too. It's just the way you learn movement. Like you have to look at yourself. You have to see what it's doing and seeing how that aligns with your feel. Try it out.